So, the Kindle signature has been a godsend for me in this stage of my life where I'm trying to get myself back. I'm trying to get back into my hobbies. I am so happy it finally worked for me. In my last video, I was talking about how I've ordered a Kindle ever since it came out, earlier-ish 2000s, and none of them have ever worked for me except for one. I finally got a Paperwhite that actually worked. This is the Kindle Signature Edition that came out, I want to say last fall, I think, when I looked it up around this time last fall. It's 32 gigabyte one, and I have some decorations on here. I don't know if it's vulgar because it represents the books that I tend to like to read. I can show a close-up one. I don't know if I can here. I'm not saying the words, but it's on there. But I'm reading the books. Soup is on the stove. The blankets are washed. I have cozy slippers. You know what I mean? During the summertime, I'm that person that's like, ew, fall is coming. Here comes the pumpkin spice. Here comes the crunching of the leaves. Here comes everybody's promoting suede is in when it's in every fall. You know what I mean? I get kind of bored with it. I'm trying to stretch out summer. I'm a summer girl. I love being in the pool. I love being in the sun. I love the heat. I don't like being bundled up in clothing and everything. And here in Texas, I like the summer rain. It rains all year here, and I appreciate that. I'm from California where it doesn't rain like that. You gotta wait till March to have some rain. But it's been really cozy. I've been reading a lot. I've been reading fast. It's just been a really good look. So the first book I read on my Kindle was called My Husband. I forgot the author. It wasn't very good. I'm not going to recommend it to you guys. There were a few funny parts because it's kind of satire books that I laughed at, but otherwise I find it to be a pointless read. I think it's a French book that's translated into English, and the character of the book has that similarity to the author herself. So she's a translator from French to English. And it has some very funny parts, something that made me laugh out loud, but it's still not a book I would recommend. I've been finding some really great authors. Kindle has, if you, everybody knows, you have Kindle Unlimited where you can read books for free if it's under that category. And that was my favorite part about Kindle. And when I had my iPad, I had Kindle Unlimited that I paid for. I'm still on my 3 months free for Kindle Unlimited, and new authors and new books come in and out of that category. So it's like you always have a library that's being refreshed, and you can only have a certain amount of books checked out from that section, and you have to put one back to get another once you reach the threshold. So I like to use Kindle Unlimited as a way to read things from an author that I'm curious about or subjects that I'm curious about to see if I want to move forward. It's a way to discover new authors and things like that without fully committing to it. And I don't mind paying the price for it. I've paid for it for years, but it's cool having it for free again, even though I've had it for free multiple times. They gave it to me 3 months for free again. And so far I've been reading a lot from there. I've read, I'm the kind of person, I read a lot. I read a lot of fantasy. I like fantasy. I like a lot of magical realism books, especially around this time of fall. And I read a little bit of everything. I like reading true crime. I like reading thrillers, horror. I like romance. I like all kinds of different things, right? But one thing that I do know that I tend to seek out are Black authors. I found this author, her name is Chatty. I found her on Kindle Unlimited. And my first book I read from her was called Long Shot. And I rated it 4 stars. That was the second book I read on my Kindle in October. And that book was really good. I found that I didn't really like a lot of some of the dialogue in it. I found it to be kind of cheesy here and there, but it was very immersive and pulled at my heartstrings a lot. It has a lot of DV in there, abuse, things like that within relationships. And it was a good book, and it makes me want to read. There's 3 in the series. I think that was the first one in the series. They're all standalone books, but they all have characters that you might see in one book will be in the other 2. And I really liked it enough to continue on with the series. Her name was Chatty, the author. The book was Long Shot, and it was really good. I didn't really care for the ending. It was just classic hero saves the day thing, but the hero is you kind of thing. And it made me want to go ahead and read another one. So on my Kindle right now, I'm reading this book called Before I Let Go. I am already 62% in. I've been reading for about 2 days. and I read more here and there, but I really love my Kindle because I'm a night reader. I like to read myself to sleep, and I've always been like that since I was like 5 and I started reading Charlotte's Web. I like to read myself to sleep, and that's what I love the most about having a Kindle. On my iPad, my eyes will hurt a lot, so I wouldn't be able to read for as long. But on my Kindle, I don't have that eye pain, so I could just read until I'm tired. So I tend to read more at night. I'll start around 6:30, 7 p.m. And I also take a bath every single night. And this is waterproof, so I tend to read it in the bath. I always, when I was reading my physical book, I read this one last month, My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Didn't really like it. But I would take this in the bath or whatever. You can see my pages may be a little bit wavy from my wet hands and things like that. This I don't have to worry about it because it's waterproof. I could drop it in the bath. I can get it wet and I don't even think about it. So I run a bath. I'll bring this in there and I'll read in the bath. And then I'll read myself to sleep after my bath. So I've been really loving it. That's how I've been reading more because I'm not worried about damaging my books. Not that I ever do. They're meant to be read, right? I'm not trying to keep everything pristine. I just want to read them. So reading Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I'll see if I can pop the books that I'm reading on the screen. This is in black and white, which I also don't mind. But this book is really good. I think I like it even more than Long Shot, but I tend to actively seek out books that are made by Black authors. And it's not anything to do with being racist or anything like that, because I read across the board, but there's something about reading something by a Black author. And I'm also kind of biased because I know I tend to go towards Black women authors. There's something about it. There's something special about it with the way they write and how they write things. But I don't really like reading certain books. I don't like reading things like the Tyler Perry pipeline, the way he does things. I don't really like to read things that go down that realm. I don't like certain traumas that are constantly being perpetuated to Black people. I don't like that. I like reading real stories about real, relatable people, normal people, I would say. I don't know how to really describe it, but I like reading things like Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, what I'm reading right now. It's about a couple who goes through a deep pit of grief in their marriage and they end up getting a divorce. And it's the second chance romance of how they went about their lives for 2 years and how they slowly started coming back together, things like that. Real stories. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be super slavey. It doesn't have to be anything racism related or anything. Just real stories about real modern people with families, with just something that you can relate to a little bit more rather than bring your mind back into the pits of hell. I like reading books like that. I think seeing that be done and perpetuated. Off topic, but another movie that I tend to like was by, I think she made the whole movie, I'm not sure, Issa Rae. She made this movie a few years back called The Photograph. And I remember my mom, they have like a movie group. You guys know I love film. So my mom took me with her friends to see this movie and I hadn't heard about it or anything. She invited me because they had a bunch of tickets and they gave me a ticket. I love that movie. And I feel like we don't really see those stories a lot in the Black community. And I just always had a deep appreciation for that movie to where whenever somebody wants to see a good romance or something like that, I always like want to recommend that movie to them. I love that movie. That was just such a great movie. And these books by Kennedy Ryan that I've read so far kind of remind me of The Photograph with Issa Rae. It gives you that vibe and it's just very normal. You know what I mean? It's not really deep-seated in trauma and abandonment and street life. And I do like reading street novels here and there. I used to like it more as a teenager, but I like the normalcy of like everyday kind of difficulties that you may go through without it being just deep rooted in that other type of trauma, if you know what I mean. Just ascend, get away from that. There's other things that we go through just as people. And I love seeing that being done by Black authors. So Kennedy Ryan is one of those authors that I found through Kindle Unlimited. And now I just want to read her whole entire catalog. I just love it. And so it's like I have this Kindle signature and it's 32 gigabytes. People say to not really get this one because you're never going to be able to fill the 32 gigabytes. But the reason why I did is because all of the other Kindles that I got, it had the ads on there. You would have to pay a little bit extra to get one without the ads. Or maybe if you look at it the other way, the one with ads is discounted. So what I found was when I was getting just the regular signature paperwhite, if I were to get the one without ads, it would have been the same price or maybe just a couple of dollars cheaper than just getting the signature that doesn't have ads already. And it also has enough to where if I wanted to put an audiobook on here, which I already have, it has enough space and I don't ever have to worry about the audiobook taking up too much space on it because the books themselves aren't going to take up too much of anything. The audiobooks usually take up a little bit more space. So I have like 2 audiobooks on here so far. What I haven't figured out is if I can do immersive reading because on my iPad, I would like listen to the book, but I'll also be reading along with the storytelling in my ear. On here, I haven't started the books, but when I wanted to see how the audiobook will work, and I didn't really get the impression that I could immersive read on here still. It just seemed like it was just the audiobook and I'll just press play and listen to it. But it didn't seem like I can go to the book that I also have on here and read along with the audiobook. So if you do have this and you can immersive read along with it, because I don't want to download it to my phone, the audiobook, just so I can read it on here, because the space on the iPhone is just severely less available than what I have on here. So that is the one con that I found. But again, I have a lot of exploring to do on here. It does link up to Goodreads, so you can mark things as currently